By the power of Greyskull, etc. and so forth, He-Man is back on the big screen in the form of Nicholas Galitzine. And I should say up front, I like my action adventure bright and colorful, my fantasy high, and tongues firmly in cheek. Masters of the Universe is trying real hard to do all three. I'm Clint Gage, and this is my review of Masters of the Universe.
I have the
Before I dig into former Laika frontman Travis Knight's take on the Prince of Eternia, I think the most interesting thing this movie represents doesn't actually have that much to do with the movie at all. There's an interesting conversation that flares up every now and then, and I think we're in the middle of it again now. It's a bad movie, but conversation. And it goes one of two ways. It's a bad movie, but it's fun and I love it. Or it's a bad movie, but nothing. It's just bad. Masters of the Universe is landing at a time when we seem to be having that conversation a lot. It's happened a handful of times now in rapid succession. There was the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which including my own review. Then it was Mortal Kombat 2 and The Mandalorian and Grogu after that. These are movies with established brands and identities and fan bases that go back decades. Also, they are by no means great movies.
I don't think he knows what he's doing.
But it's kind of a coin flip as to whether you like them in spite of a relative lack of quality. It's a quirk of fate, an intangible thing that has nothing to do with the actual movie at all. Maybe you're a hardcore Nintendo fan, and so long as all the characters from the game show up on screen, that's a blast, and we're good. Or maybe you were the only kid at your high school that had a Sega, and you're a ride or die Team Sonic. Then you don't have time for Mario or his Galaxy, and the movie just kind of seems bad. The point is, it's a bad movie, but has nothing to do with the movie. If it did, then it would just be a bad movie. Now there's something interesting about this particular batch of movies too. Mario, Mortal Kombat, and Mando, and now Masters of the Universe. In addition to being alliterative, which I actually just noticed, they've all been around for a long time. It's interesting to have The Mandalorian coming from Star Wars, a franchise famous for creating characters that make good toys, in such close proximity to Masters of the Universe, a franchise famous for spinning off from a successful toy line. We're in a wave of fan service that's more tsunami-ish than usual. And fan service gets thrown around like a bad thing a lot, and I don't think that's always fair. If there's an established fan base for something, by all means, yeah, give them what they want. The real challenge is making it something that anybody outside of that fan base will give a damn about. But that is one area where Masters of the Universe succeeds admirably, because Travis Knight and every other creative in front of and behind the camera seem to simultaneously love He-Man and realize how stupid the whole thing is. Now, while I continue putting off really talking about Masters of the Universe in this Masters of the Universe review, here's a quick aside to say I'm very aware that not every movie has to be The Godfather. Not every movie should be The Godfather, nor should every movie be compared to every other movie on the same scale, least of all The Godfather. The big takeaway here is that we all bring our whole selves to the movie, even those of us who are lucky enough to review them for a living. Me and He-Man, we go way back. If McGray doesn't give me away, I was inseparable from my He-Man toys back when he was still just an animated commercial for them. Dolph Lundgren's run at the character in '87 was probably my first experience with it's a bad movie, but, and I was a He-Man kid, and that makes me a He-Man guy to this day, and that colors my reaction to this, now I'll say it, very not bad movie. I wasn't expecting much. None of the trailers were terribly inspiring, but I did hold out some hope, specifically because of Travis Knight. His work with Laika is incredible. Some of my favorite stuff, in fact. Now, Bumblebee was a lot better than I expected it to be as well, because he imbued that lovable yellow robot alien with some humanity, which is a thing he honed in all those years of doing stop-motion animation. And one of my favorite things about this movie is that if it were an animated movie, like most of Knight's other work, it would have been the same movie. The action and physicality throughout the movie is solid. The fight scenes are vibrant and interesting. They don't reinvent any wheels, but they are just different looking enough from the rest of action cinema's latest offerings to make it fun. A few sequences get overly CG and start to feel a little empty, but by and large, every time anybody kicks ass on screen, it really kicks ass. Idris Elba in particular, as Man-at-Arms, is a character built around his fighting. It feeds into his entire arc. He's a guy who has strongly held ideas of what it means to be a big, strong man. Ideas that are put to the test throughout the movie. What's great about Duncan as well is that he's really the one that gets to grow and change. Nicholas Galitzine as Prince Adam doesn't have nearly as far to travel, and actually gets to be the catalyst for others to change more often than he's developing himself. Adam is more of an avatar for the themes of the film, that strength and manhood isn't about muscles as much as listening and empathy. Adam, in his time on Earth, found his way to a career in human resources, which is remarkably on-the-nose alter ego for this version of He-Man, but it works more than it doesn't. He's portrayed as a kid that hasn't grown up at all, in a room with walls still papered with drawings from his childhood, and that's the world he's stuck in, which is a perfect and frankly ballsy metaphor for the audience movies like this are targeting. Elsewhere in the cast, Camila Mendez as Teela doesn't get as much to do in the action department, but she's definitely got her moments. The rest of the heroes of Eternia each have their own action figure style specialty that keeps the action choreography spicy, but their real purpose is the comedy. Now, there is a grinning self-awareness to this movie that is, as I said before, its biggest strength. The way the character names, pulled from a 50-year-old toy line, honestly feel like a first draft. Ram Man and Fisto and Mecha Neck, Evil Lynn, whose name is just a phonetic way to mispronounce Evelyn, they're all quite frankly pretty dumb, He-Man included. But instead of making the mistake of trying to have a guy named Ram Man earnestly talk to another guy named He-Man, Masters of the Universe takes none of it seriously. But they don't stop there with the names, and they shouldn't have. Travis Knight and company make the savvy choice to not take anything else seriously either. There are synths, and Brian May from Queen is shredding an electric guitar in the score. Alison Brie is hilarious as Evil Lynn, while Kristen Wiig voices an angry battle droid that's been downgraded to a maid. There are sex jokes made at the expense of both Fisto and Ram Man, and based on their names, you can imagine what low-hanging fruit those jokes were. But the sheer joy and innocence with which they're delivered make them the only jokes that could possibly work in those moments. It all adds up to a film that's just this side of a proper spoof, in the way that Hot Shots loves Top Gun as much as it's making fun of it. As Spaceballs is to Star Wars, that's what Masters of the Universe is doing to Masters of the Universe. It's why it's got a leg up on every other entry into a decades-old IP that we've gotten this year. There's an understanding of the source material at play with Masters of the Universe that's as obvious as a sword-wielding barbarian in a fur loincloth. And it's most obvious when they're talking about how silly Masters of the Universe is. It's quite frankly a magic trick to pull that off as legibly as Travis Knight does it here. But weirdly enough, and this is the thing that surprised me more than anything else in this movie that I very much enjoyed, the most unhinged and terrific part of this movie is Jared Leto as Skeletor. The Morbius actor hasn't exactly had the best run in recent years. It was most likely Blade Runner 2049 the last time Leto was featured this prominently in a movie that wasn't awful. But this version of Skeletor is fantastic. He's a swaggering weirdo with a near limitless power that's only matched by his fear of losing it. There's a sass to him as well, an almost Deadpool-like meta layer. And if he had actual eyes and we could tell where he was looking, we might have caught him looking straight into the lens. There's even a joke about what could motivate him to do such terrible things, and the answer we get is, he's just bad. He's got a skull for a face, so he's bad. There's really nothing more to it than that. Now again, like some of the low-hanging fruit in the film's humor, there's no new trails blazed by Skeletor's staff of havoc where the villain's humor is concerned. Like the scene where he laughs maniacally for too long and has to tell Evil Lynn that he's done and they can move on now. Instead of just telling these same old jokes, they point out how these jokes are the same and old and manage to make that approach entertaining for the whole runtime. But peppered in the middle of all of that are bits that put Skeletor in a new and modern situation to very funny effect. It's a strangely fascinating way to go about it, one that keeps the pace of the film sprinting all the way to the end.
Does it feel good?
So I started this by preambling probably too much about the handful of it's a bad movie but entries to iconic franchises we've gotten lately. I would have guessed Masters of the Universe was going to be another one, but I was pleasantly surprised to be wrong about that. This is a movie that knows exactly what it is, and Travis Knight pulled it off. So no, it's not The Godfather, it's not Super Mario Galaxy either, but for what it is, and considering my relationship to the franchise, I think it's pretty great.
That's it? I finished.
Of course, my lord.
When I raise my fist like that, I'm done!
Yes.
That is the crescendo!
We'll know for the future, my lord.
So that is a long way to say I'm giving Masters of the Universe an 8. It's so much funnier than I expected. The fight scenes are choreographed and photographed in a way that gives the sequences just enough flair to make them stand out, even if they're not revolutionizing superhero-style fisticuffs on screen. And while Nicholas Galitzine and Idris Elba provide the thematic structure to the film, Jared Leto's Skeletor gives a delightfully weird and cartoonish energy to every scene he's in. It's a film that appreciates the source material, silly names and all, and proves the best way to add to a 50-year-old franchise that's about toys as much as anything else is just to not take it seriously at all. So that's what I think of Masters of the Universe. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. For more movie reviews, you're already in the right place. Stay subscribed to IGN wherever you like to watch.